The sky above Geneva turned dark at exactly 3 in the afternoon. Thousands of ships appeared without warning, blocking out the sun. They were not human ships. Admiral Day stood at the window of the United Nations Space Defense Headquarters and watched the alien fleet settle into orbit above Earth. He had fought in 3 wars during his career, but he had never seen anything like this. "Sir, they're broadcasting," said a young officer behind him. Her voice shook slightly. Day turned from the window. "Put it on screen." The massive display lit up with an image of a creature that looked like it had been formed from smoke and silver light. It had no face that Day could recognize. But when it spoke, the words came out in perfect English. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Velthar of the Galactic Council. We represent 847 civilized species across this galaxy. We have come with an important message for your kind." Day crossed his arms and listened. Around the command center, every person had stopped working to watch. "Your species has been observed for the past 200 years, the ambassador continued. "We have watched you develop faster than light travel. We have watched you establish colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. We have watched you build weapons of terrible power. And we have made our decision." The image of Velthar seemed to grow larger on the screen. "Humanity is too aggressive, too violent, too dangerous to be allowed free movement across the galaxy. Therefore, the Galactic Council has decided that Earth must surrender all military assets immediately. You will be restricted to your home system for the next 10,000 years. You will accept Council governance and follow our laws. You have 72 hours to comply." The transmission ended. Silence filled the command center for 3 long seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. Day raised his hand. "Quiet." His voice was not loud, but everyone stopped. "Get me President Choi, now." Across the city, in her office overlooking Lake Geneva, President Yuna Choi had watched the same broadcast. She sat very still in her chair, her hands folded on the desk in front of her. Her assistant stood nearby, waiting for orders. "Ma'am, Admiral Day is calling," the assistant said. "Put him through." Day's weathered face appeared on her screen. "Madam President, I assume you saw the broadcast." "I did." Yuna's voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. "How many ships do they have?" "Our sensors count over 5,000 vessels in orbit. The largest one is the size of our moon. We've never seen technology like this." "And how many ships do we have?" Day hesitated. 300 combat-ready vessels, maybe another 100 support ships. So we're outnumbered 17 to 1. "Yes, ma'am." Yuna stood and walked to her window. She could see the alien ships from here, dark spots against the afternoon sky. "What do you recommend?" "Admiral, that depends on what you want to do, Madam President. If we surrender, we might survive. If we fight, we'll probably die. Those aren't my only 2 options, are they?" Day allowed himself a small smile. "No, ma'am. There might be a 3rd option. But you're not going to like it." While the President and the Admiral talked, Dr. Hannah Back was in her laboratory 3 floors below the command center. She was the best xenolinguist on Earth, and she had been analyzing the alien broadcast for the past 30 minutes. What she found made her blood run cold. Hannah grabbed her tablet and ran to the elevator. She needed to speak to Admiral Day immediately. She found him in the command center, ending his call with the President. "Admiral, I need to show you something." Day looked at the young scientist. He knew Hannah well. She didn't panic easily. "What is it?" Hannah pulled up her analysis on the main screen. The ambassador's message wasn't just in English. It was broadcast in every human language simultaneously. "I've been analyzing the linguistic patterns, the word choices, the tone, and they're lying about wanting peace. Look at these words." Hannah highlighted several phrases. When translated across all languages, there's a consistent pattern. They don't see us as equals. They see us as animals that need to be caged. The word they use for governance actually means domestication in most of their language family. Day stared at the analysis. "They want to make us pets. Or slaves. The restrictions they're demanding aren't for our protection. They're to keep us weak." Hana's hands trembled slightly as she operated the tablet. Admiral, every other species the Council has civilized was contacted before they developed serious military technology. They were guided and controlled from the beginning. We're different. We built our weapons and ships without their help. I think that scares them. Before Day could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. The display screen switched to show the alien fleet. Several ships were moving toward Mars. "Sir, we're getting distress calls from the Mars colonies," an officer reported. "The alien ships are firing on them." Day watched the screen as bright flashes lit up the red planet. "How many people are in those colonies?" "Approximately 70,000, sir. The bombardment lasted 15 minutes. When it stopped, the communications officer turned to Day with tears in her eyes. "Sir, the colonies aren't responding. Initial estimates: 15,000 dead. Maybe more." Day's jaw tightened. Another transmission came from Ambassador Velthar. "That was a demonstration. A small taste of what will happen if you refuse our generous offer. We await your decision. 72 hours, humans. Choose wisely." Captain Jin Park stood on the bridge of the UESS Defiance, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. He had watched the demonstration at Mars with his crew. Now his communications officer was patching through a call from Admiral Day. "Captain Park, I need you in Geneva immediately. We're calling an emergency meeting of all fleet commanders." "Sir, what are we going to do?" "That's what we need to decide. Get here fast, Jin." By evening, every major government on Earth was in chaos. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to negotiate. In her office, President Yoona Choi listened to them argue over a secure channel. She let them talk for an hour before she spoke. "Enough." Her single word cut through the noise. "I've made my decision. I'm calling Admiral Day back to discuss our response. We will inform the Council of our answer in 48 hours. "Madam President, what is our answer?" asked the Prime Minister of the Asian Federation. Yoona's expression was stone. "I'll tell you after I speak with the Admiral, but I will say this. My grandmother survived the Third World War. She taught me one lesson I have never forgotten. She said that life on your knees is not life at all. She said that freedom is worth any price." She ended the call and looked out at the alien ships overhead. Somewhere up there, 15,000 human souls had just been murdered as a warning. The Galactic Council thought Earth would be like all the others. They thought humanity would bow down and accept chains. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral Day arrived at her office an hour later. He carried a datapad filled with tactical plans. "Madam President, I have a proposal. It's risky. Actually, it's insane. But it might be our only chance." Yoona gestured for him to sit. "Tell me everything, Admiral. And don't hold anything back." As Day began explaining his plan, the alien fleet waited patiently above. Ambassador Velthar was confident. Humans would surrender like all the others. They always did. The Council had been doing this for 3,000 years, but Earth was different. And in 48 hours, the galaxy would find out just how different humanity could be. 48 hours had passed since the alien ultimatum. The world held its breath. In underground bunkers and orbital stations, in cities and villages, humans waited to see what their leaders would decide. Some prayed. Some prepared to fight. Some packed their belongings, ready to flee to places that didn't exist. In a secure military facility beneath the Swiss Alps, engineer Mina Song hadn't slept in 2 days. She stood in front of her life's work, a weapon system that had never been tested outside of computer simulations. The quantum missiles gleamed under the laboratory lights, sleek and deadly. "Will they work?" Admiral Day asked from behind her. Mina turned. Her eyes were red from exhaustion. "In theory, yes. The quantum phase technology should let them pass through the alien shields like they don't exist. But Admiral, I need to be honest with you. We've never fired one. Not even once. The power requirements are enormous, and the mathematics are so complex that even our best computers can barely handle the calculations. What are the chances they'll actually work?" Mina looked back at her missiles. 60%, maybe 70 if we're lucky. And if they don't work? Then the ships carrying them will be destroyed for nothing. Mina's voice was quiet. Admiral, these missiles are designed to kill that flagship, the moon-sized one. But even if they work perfectly, even if we destroy it, we'll still be outnumbered hundreds to one. Day put a hand on her shoulder. Engineer Song, sometimes winning isn't about destroying all your enemies. Sometimes it's about showing them that fighting you costs too much. Can you have these missiles ready to launch in 12 hours? Yes, sir. Then do it. And Mina? Day waited until she looked at him. Your weapons might just save the human race. No pressure. Despite everything, Mina smiled slightly. No pressure at all, sir. On the other side of the world, Sergeant Tay Lim was addressing his Marine company. 200 soldiers stood at attention, their armor gleaming in the harsh fluorescent lights of the barracks. They knew what was coming. Everyone knew. Listen up, Tay said, his voice echoed in the large room. In a few hours, the President is going to give the aliens an answer. I can't tell you what that answer will be. But I can tell you this. We're Marines. We don't surrender. We don't kneel. We don't quit. If those alien ships come down to Earth, we'll be ready. One of the younger Marines raised her hand. Sergeant, what if we can't win? Tay looked at her. Private, humanity has faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, wars that killed millions. Every single time, we survived because we refused to give up. Winning isn't the point. Fighting is. Making them pay for every inch. Making them remember that humans don't go quietly. The Marines began to cheer. Tay let them. They would need that fire soon. In orbit above Earth, Captain Jin Park walked through the corridors of the UESS Defiance. His crew was preparing the ship for combat. Everyone moved with purpose, checking weapons, running system diagnostics, saying quiet prayers in empty corners. Jin's second-in-command, Commander Wu Han, met him at the bridge. Sir, all systems are ready. The quantum missiles have been loaded into launch tubes 1 through 6. Engineer Song sent final activation codes an hour ago. How's the crew? Wu smiled grimly. Scared. Angry. Ready. Wu. Good. That's exactly how I feel. Jin sat in the captain's chair and looked at the view screen. The alien flagship dominated the view. A massive structure of black metal and glowing energy. It was beautiful and terrible. Wu, do you think we can actually hurt that thing? Honestly, sir, I have no idea. But I know we have to try. The bridge crew nodded in agreement. They were volunteers, every single one. When Admiral Day had called for ships to join the attack, thousands had stepped forward. They knew it was probably suicide. They came anyway. At exactly 8 p.m. Geneva time, President Yoona Choi appeared on every screen on Earth. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with determination. Behind her, the flag of United Earth hung on the wall. My fellow humans, she began. 48 hours ago, the Galactic Council gave us an ultimatum. They demanded we surrender our freedom, our ships, our weapons. They demanded we accept their rule for 10,000 years. They killed 15,000 of our people on Mars to show us what would happen if we refused. She paused. Around the world, billions of people watched in silence. I have consulted with our military leaders, our scientists, our philosophers. I have read thousands of messages from citizens across Earth and our colonies. I have prayed and thought and struggled with this decision, and now I will give the Galactic Council our answer. Yoona leaned forward slightly. Humanity's answer is no. We will not surrender. We will not accept chains. We will not bow to threats. We are a free people, and we will remain free, or we will die trying. To Ambassador Velthar and the Galactic Council, I say this. You have made a terrible mistake. You thought we were weak. You thought we would be frightened into submission. You were wrong. The broadcast ended. For a moment, the world was silent. Then the cheering began. In cities and towns, in ships and stations, humans roared their approval. Some cried. Some laughed. But everyone knew what was coming next. War. Aboard his command ship, Ambassador Velthar watched the human president's message with something close to disbelief. In 3,000 years of council expansion, no species had ever rejected their offer. Not one. "These humans are insane," he said to his officers. "They have 300 ships against our 5,000. They must know they cannot win." "What are your orders, Ambassador?" his tactical commander asked. Velthar's form rippled with anger. "We will show them the price of defiance. Destroy their orbital stations. Destroy their ships. When they beg for mercy, then we will accept their surrender." The alien fleet began to move, thousands of ships descending toward Earth, their weapons powered up, ready to rain destruction on human civilization. But Admiral Day was ready too. From the command center in Geneva, he sent out the activation signal. Across Earth's orbit, 300 human warships powered their engines and turned to face the enemy. It looked hopeless. It probably was hopeless, but every captain, every crew member, every pilot knew one thing. They would make the aliens pay. "All ships, this is Admiral Day," he broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. "Today we face an enemy that thinks we're primitives. They think we're easy prey. They think we'll scatter and run. Let's show them what humans are really made of. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta 7. Target, the flagship." On the bridge of the Defiance, Jin Park smiled. Pattern Delta 7 was insane. It called for the entire human fleet to ignore the smaller alien ships and charge straight at the massive flagship. It violated every rule of space combat. It was tactically idiotic. It was also the only chance they had. "You heard the Admiral," Jin said to his crew. "All power to engines, weapons ready. Today we make history." The Defiance leaped forward, leading the human fleet toward the alien flagship. Behind them, 299 other ships followed. They were outnumbered. They were outgunned. They were probably going to die, but they were going to make it count. The battle for Earth had begun. The human fleet streaked toward the alien flagship like arrows aimed at the sun. Around them, thousands of enemy ships opened fire, the space between Earth and the Moon filled with energy beams, missiles, and explosions. It was beautiful and horrifying at the same time. Pilot Sora Kim gripped the controls of her fighter as the squadron raced ahead of the larger ships. She was 26 years old and had been flying for 8 years. She was also terrified. But fear didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered except the mission. "Gold Squadron, this is Gold Leader," she said into her comm. "Stay tight. We need to clear a path for the Defiance. Remember the plan." "Copy that, Gold Leader," her wingman replied. "See you on the other side." Sora didn't answer. There probably wasn't going to be another side. Not for most of them. The alien ships moved to intercept the human fleet. They were fast and powerful, their shields glowing with protective energy. But the aliens made a mistake. They assumed the humans would try to fight all of them. They assumed wrong. "All fighters, break and engage." Admiral Day's voice came over the comm. "Capital ships, maintain course. Do not stop. Do not slow down." Sora pulled her fighter into a sharp turn and opened fire on an alien cruiser. Her weapons hit the shield and did nothing. Behind her, 3 alien fighters pursued. She led them away from the main fleet, twisting and turning through space. Her targeting computer locked onto one of them. She fired again. This time, she hit something vital. The alien fighter exploded in a ball of blue fire. All around her, the battle raged. Human fighters danced and dodged, drawing enemy ships away from the capital ships. The aliens were better armed and better protected, but the humans were faster and more creative. They did things the aliens had never seen before. Maneuvers that made no tactical sense but somehow worked. On the Defiance, Commander Wuhan watched the tactical display. "Sir, we're losing fighters fast. Gold Squadron is down to half strength. Silver Squadron is at 30%. Captain Jin Park's hands tightened on his chair. Every lost icon on the display was someone he knew. Someone who had trusted him. "Maintain course. We're almost there." The flagship loomed ahead of them, growing larger every second. It was a monster. Bigger than any city on Earth. Its surface bristled with weapons. Energy barriers shimmered around it like soap bubbles, layered shields that had never been broken in 3,000 years of warfare. "Sir, the flagship is charging its main weapon," Wu reported. "If that thing fires, it could destroy half our fleet in one shot. How long until we're in missile range?" 2 minutes. "And how long until that weapon fires?" Wu checked his instruments. 90 seconds. Jin made his decision. "Launch fighters. All of them. Tell them to target the main gun. I don't care if they can't destroy it. Just buy us time." 20 fighters launched from the Defiance's hangar bays. They were the last reserve, held back for emergencies. This definitely qualified as an emergency. The fighters raced toward the massive flagship, firing everything they had at the charging weapon. Sora saw them coming. "All fighters, concentrate fire on those coordinates. We need to give the big ships a chance." What was left of Gold Squadron joined the new fighters. Together they poured fire into the flagship's weapon ports. Their shots barely scratched the shields, but it was enough to distract the alien crew. The main weapon's charge cycle stuttered and reset. They had bought 30 seconds. "Missile range in 45 seconds, Wu announced. Around the Defiance, the human fleet was falling apart. Ship after ship took hits and exploded or went dark. The aliens were everywhere, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. But the surviving ships kept going. They didn't break formation. They didn't run. Jin watched another destroyer explode on his screen. He knew the captain. They had trained together 15 years ago. "Come on," he whispered. "Just a little further." Sora's fighter took a hit that knocked out her right engine. She fought to keep control as the fighter spun wildly. Through her canopy, she saw the flagship's weapon starting to glow again. This time it would fire. This time they couldn't stop it. "Gold leader to Defiance," she said calmly. "That gun is about to fire. You have maybe 20 seconds. We need 40 seconds to reach missile range," Wu said quietly. Jin looked at the tactical display. He looked at his crew. They looked back at him, waiting. They all knew what had to be done. "Gold leader, can your squadron reach that gun port in 20 seconds? Sora looked at her instruments, looked at her remaining fighters. "Yes, sir, but we won't be able to pull away in time." Jin closed his eyes for just a moment. "I understand. Gold leader, you are cleared for final attack. And Sora? Thank you. It's been an honor. Sir, Gold Squadron, follow me in. Maximum speed. Let's make it count." 9 fighters turned as one and dove straight at the flagship's main weapon. They didn't fire their guns. They became the guns. 9 human pilots, 9 fighters loaded with explosives, 9 people who chose to sacrifice everything for a chance. The flagship's gunners tried to shoot them down. They destroyed 3 fighters, then 5, then 7. But 2 made it through. Sora Kim and her wingman slammed into the weapon port at full speed. The explosion was massive. It didn't destroy the flagship, but it damaged the main gun and knocked out an entire section of shields. More importantly, it created an opening. "Missile range achieved," Wu said. His voice cracked slightly. "Tubes 1 through 6 are ready." Jin stood up. "Fire all quantum missiles. Emergency power to forward shields. After the missiles launch, all ships break and scatter. We've done what we came to do." Engineer Mina Song's untested, unproven quantum missiles launched from 6 different human ships. They were small and fast, designed to do one thing: phase through energy shields and strike the target directly. As they raced toward the flagship, everyone held their breath. The missiles hit the damaged section of the flagship's shields. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the missiles flickered and vanished, passing through the shields like ghosts through walls. They reappeared inside the barrier and slammed into the flagship's hull. The explosions that followed were not large, not compared to the size of the flagship, but they were in exactly the right places. Mina had calculated where to strike to cause maximum internal damage. Her calculations were perfect. Secondary explosions rippled through the flagship's interior. Power fluctuations cascaded from system to system. The mighty shields that had protected the eternal dominion for 3,000 years flickered and failed. The ship didn't explode, but it went dark, disabled and drifting. On the bridge of his command ship, Ambassador Velthar stared in shock at the impossible sight. The flagship was crippled. The humans had done what no species had ever done before. Impossible, he whispered. Lesser species can't. They don't. Admiral Day's face appeared on every alien ship's display. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. His uniform was torn, but he was smiling. Attention Galactic Council fleet. This is Admiral Day of Earth. Your flagship is disabled. You've lost over 400 ships. We've lost more than half our fleet, but we're still here, still fighting. Here's what's going to happen next. You're going to retreat beyond the orbit of Mars. You're going to think very carefully about whether you really want to continue this fight, because if you do, we'll destroy another flagship. And another. We'll make you pay for every meter of space, every inch of Earth. We will never surrender. Ever. The alien fleet hesitated. They had the numbers to win. But they had never fought an enemy like this before, never faced a species that would sacrifice everything, that would throw themselves at certain death just to prove they wouldn't kneel. Slowly, the alien ships began to pull back. On the Defiance, Jin Park sagged in his chair. Around him, his bridge crew was crying and cheering at the same time. They had won. Somehow, impossibly, they had won, but the price had been terrible. 163 human ships were gone, thousands of fighters destroyed, tens of thousands of people dead, including pilot Sora Kim and her entire squadron. Jin looked at the drifting flagship on his screen. They had hurt the Council badly. But the war wasn't over. Not yet. It was only just beginning. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every species that had access to faster-than-light communication heard about it within hours. The Galactic Council's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, had been crippled. The mighty Council fleet had retreated. A primitive species called humans had done the impossible. On a planet 300 light-years from Earth, a species called the Torvin heard the news. They had been under Council control for 800 years. Their leader, an old female named Kessa, listened to the reports with growing excitement. "Is this true?" she asked her intelligence officers. "Did the humans really fight back?" "Yes, Elder. The reports are confirmed from multiple sources. The humans disabled the flagship and forced the fleet to retreat. The Council is calling an emergency session." Kessa felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. Share this information with everyone. Let our people know that the Council can be resisted. Similar conversations were happening on 40 different worlds. Species that had been conquered and civilized by the Council were watching Earth with new eyes. For the first time in 3,000 years, they saw a possibility of freedom. On Earth, in a small office in Tokyo, Dr. Ji Nam was surrounded by ancient documents and star charts. He was a xenohistorian, an expert on alien civilizations. He had been researching the Galactic Council for 3 days straight, trying to understand why they feared humanity so much. What he discovered changed everything. G grabbed his tablet and called Admiral Day. The Admiral answered immediately. He looked exhausted, but alert. "Dr. Nam, I hope you have good news. I could use some." "Admiral, I found something important. Something that explains why the Council reacted so strongly to us." G pulled up a chart. "I've been studying the development patterns of every species in the Council, all 847 of them, and I found a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" "Every single species was contacted by the Council before they developed serious military technology. The Council would arrive when a species was just beginning to explore space. They would offer guidance, technology, protection. They would help these species grow and develop, but always under Council supervision." Day frowned. "So, they controlled these species from the beginning?" "Exactly. The Council has been doing this for thousands of years. They find primitive species, guide them into the Council's civilization, and make sure they never become a threat. It's not evil, exactly. More like domestication. Like how humans domesticated wolves into dogs. But we weren't domesticated, G smiled grimly. No, Admiral. We were left alone. The Council didn't find us until we already had fusion drives, quantum weapons, and a fleet of warships. By the time they showed up, it was too late to guide us. We had already become something they had never seen before. A truly independent spacefaring species. So that's why they wanted to lock us in the Sol system. Not just lock us in. The ultimatum wasn't about protecting the galaxy from us. It was about protecting the Council's power structure. If other species saw that a free, independent civilization could exist, they might start asking questions, might start demanding freedom themselves. They thought about this. So by attacking the flagship, we didn't just hurt the Council militarily, we hurt them politically. You proved that the Council isn't invincible. That's more dangerous to them than any weapon. While G and Day talked, Intelligence Officer Sung-Oh was in a secure facility beneath Seoul, monitoring alien communications. His job was to intercept and translate messages from the Council fleet. What he was hearing made him increasingly excited. "Commander, you need to hear this," he said to his superior. The commander came over to his station. "What have you got?" "I've been monitoring internal Council communications. They're panicking. Listen to this." Sung played a recording. The alien voices were automatically translated by the computer. The Torvan are asking questions. The Heskar are refusing to send their tribute ships. The Vornik ambassador is demanding a vote on the human situation. Another voice responded. "This is a disaster. If the subject species start rebelling, we won't have enough ships to control them all. We need to make an example of Earth. Destroy them completely." A third voice spoke. This one sounded older, more cautious. "If we destroy Earth now, we'll create martyrs. The other species will see us as tyrants, but if we negotiate, if we show mercy, we might salvage this situation." Sung stopped the recording. "Sir, they're divided. Some want to destroy us, but others want to negotiate. And the subject species are watching everything we do." The commander immediately called Admiral Day. "Sir, you need to hear this. The Council is falling apart." The emergency Council session took place on the Council's home station, a massive structure that orbited a red giant star. 847 species sent their representatives. The chamber was huge, with seats arranged in concentric circles rising up like an amphitheater. At the center stood the Council elders, the 7 species who had founded the Council 3,000 years ago. They were supposed to be wise and patient. Today they looked worried and angry. The chief elder, a crystalline being named Thonar, called the session to order. "We are here to discuss the human situation. Ambassador Velthar, explain how your mission failed so completely." Velthar stood in the center of the chamber. He looked smaller than before, diminished. "Honorable elders, the humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They possess military technology and tactical thinking far beyond what their development level should allow. They were willing to accept massive casualties to achieve their objective. They humiliated us," Thonar interrupted. "For the first time in our history, the Council fleet has been forced to retreat. The Eternal Dominion, our symbol of power, drifts broken in Earth's orbit, and now our subject species are questioning our authority." A representative from the Torvan stood up. "Perhaps they should question it. Perhaps we all should. The humans asked only to be left alone. They wanted freedom. Why is that a threat?" "Because freedom without guidance leads to chaos," another elder replied. "We have brought peace to the galaxy. Order. Civilization. You have brought control," the Torvan representative shot back. "There is a difference." The chamber erupted in argument. Some species defended the Council. Others spoke in favor of the humans. The elders watched their carefully constructed order beginning to crack. Finally, Thonar raised his crystalline hand for silence. "Enough. We must make a decision. We cannot destroy Earth without making things worse. but we cannot allow them to go unpunished. We need a new approach. An advisor whispered something to Thonar. The elder listened, then nodded slowly. We will send a new ambassador to Earth. Not Velthar. He has failed. We will send someone who understands diplomacy better than threats. Someone who can negotiate a peaceful solution. And if the humans refuse to negotiate? Someone asked. Thonar's form flickered with uncertainty. Then we will have a much bigger problem than one rebellious species. Thonar's form flickered. Thonar's form flickered with uncertainty. Uncertainty. Back on Earth, President Una Choi stood at the window of her rebuilt office. The battle had damaged parts of Geneva, but the city was recovering. Below her, people walked in the streets. They were celebrating, but also mourning. Every person on Earth had lost someone in the battle. Admiral Day entered her office. Madam President, we're receiving a transmission from the Council. They want to negotiate. Negotiate or demand? The message says, negotiate. They're sending a new ambassador. Someone different from Velthar. Una turned from the window. What do you think, Admiral? Is this a trick? Maybe. Probably. But Dr. Nam's research suggests the Council is in real trouble. We didn't just hurt their fleet. We hurt their credibility. If they destroy us now, 40 other species might rebel. They can't afford that. So we have leverage. For the first time, yes. Una sat down at her desk. She looked tired but determined. Then we'll negotiate. But Admiral, we negotiate as equals. Not as conquered people begging for mercy. If they can't accept that, then we fight again. Day smiled. Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what I expected you to say. As they prepared for the negotiations, neither of them knew that the galaxy had already changed forever. The news of Earth's resistance was spreading. Species that had accepted Council rule for centuries were starting to ask dangerous questions, starting to wonder if freedom might be possible after all. The Council had wanted to make an example of humanity. They had succeeded, but not in the way they intended. Instead of showing the galaxy what happened to rebels, they had shown what was possible when someone refused to kneel. The real revolution was just beginning. 2 weeks after the battle, a single Council ship approached Earth. It was not a warship. It was a diplomatic vessel, painted in the white and gold colors of peace. The Council fleet remained beyond Mars, watching and waiting. President Una Choi stood in the newly repaired United Nations building in Geneva. Behind her stood Admiral Day, Engineer Mina Song, Dr. Hannah Bach, and representatives from every major nation on Earth. They wore their finest clothes, but also their military medals. They were here to negotiate, but they wanted the Council to remember what those medals represented. The Council's new ambassador materialized in the center of the room. Unlike Velthar's smoke-like form, this ambassador was solid and almost human-looking. It had 4 arms and silver skin, but it stood on 2 legs and had a face that could show expressions. Greetings, the ambassador said in perfect English. I am Ambassador Krendy. I come with an offer of peace from the Galactic Council. Una did not bow, did not show any sign of submission. Ambassador Krendy, welcome to Earth. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. We are willing to talk, but we will not accept the terms you offered 2 weeks ago. We will not surrender our weapons. We will not accept restriction to our solar system. We will not become subjects of the Council. Krendy's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in its eyes. Respect, perhaps, or maybe just calculation. President Choi, I understand. The Council has reconsidered its position. We now realize that humanity is different from other species we have encountered. Your tactics, your willingness to sacrifice, your refusal to accept defeat, even when facing impossible odds. These are qualities we did not expect. You mean you didn't expect primitives to fight back? Admiral Day said bluntly. Krendy turned to look at him. Yes, Admiral. That is exactly what I mean. The Council has been bringing species into our civilization for 3,000 years. All of them accepted our guidance, You are the first to refuse, the first to prove you could hurt us. And now you want to destroy us for it, Yuna said. Some members of the council do want that, Krendi admitted. But destroying Earth would create more problems than it solves. Your battle has inspired other species. 40 civilizations that were previously content under council rule are now asking questions, demanding answers. Some are even refusing to follow council directives. Do friend. Dr. Genome spoke up from his position near the wall. So you need us to cooperate. If you destroy us, you prove that the council rules through fear, not wisdom. But if you negotiate with us, if you treat us as equals, you can maintain your image as benevolent leaders. Krendi looked at G with what might have been amusement. Your xenohistorian has done his research. Yes, Dr. Nam, you are correct. The council is facing a political crisis. We need a solution that doesn't involve genocide. Quote, Then let's discuss that solution, Yuna said. She gestured to a conference table. Please. Sit. The negotiations lasted for 6 hours. The council representatives tried to maintain some level of control. They offered Earth membership in the council, but with restrictions. Limited voting rights, quotas on military production, supervision of human exploration beyond the Sol system. Each time, Yuna refused. We are not children who need supervision, she said firmly. We are not criminals who need monitoring. We are a sovereign species. If you want peace with us, you will treat us as complete equals. Nothing less is acceptable. Finally, Krendi made a proposal that was different. What if Earth becomes a full member of the Council? Complete voting rights. No restrictions on exploration or military development, but in exchange, you agree to share some of your defensive technology with other Council species. And you agree to help mediate disputes between Council members. Admiral Day leaned over to whisper to Yuna, It's a trap. They want our quantum missile technology. Not the missiles, Krendi said. Its hearing apparently very good. We want your shield bypass methods. Your tactical algorithms. The defensive innovations that let your ships survive against our superior numbers. If another species ever attacks the Council, we want to be able to defend ourselves using your methods. Mina Song stood up. And what do we get in return? Besides membership? Access to Council technology. Faster than light drives that are more efficient than yours. Medical knowledge from 800 species. Star charts showing safe routes through the galaxy. And most importantly, you get what you've been fighting for. Freedom. The human delegation asked for a recess. They gathered in a side room to discuss the offer. It sounds too good to be true, said the Prime Minister of the Asian Federation. It probably is, Day agreed. But we need to consider our position. We won the battle, but we can't win a long war. If the Council decides to send everything they have against us, we'll lose eventually. Admiral Day is right, Yuna said. We need allies. We need time to build up our forces. This treaty gives us both. Dr. Hanabak had been quiet during the negotiations, but now she spoke. There's something else to consider. If we accept this treaty, we set a precedent. Other species will see that the Council can be negotiated with as equals. It could change the entire political structure of the galaxy. Yuna thought about this. Thought about the 15,000 people who died on Mars. The thousands more who died in the battle. The pilots like Sora Kim, who sacrificed everything. They didn't die so we could be slaves, she said quietly. But they also didn't die so we could be isolated and alone in the galaxy. This treaty isn't perfect. But it gives us a chance to build something better. To show other species that freedom is possible. She looked around the room at the representatives of Earth. I'm going to accept the treaty. But I want it on record. This is not surrender. This is not submission. This is us choosing to join the galaxy on our own terms. If anyone objects, speak now. No one objected. They returned to the negotiation room. Yuna sat across from Krendi. We accept your offer, she said. But with one addition. Earth gets a permanent seat on the Council's ruling body. We want a voice in decisions that affect the entire galaxy. Krendy was silent for a long moment, then it nodded. I will need to confirm this with the Council elders, but I believe they will accept. You have proven you cannot be ignored. The formal treaty was signed 3 days later. It was broadcast across the galaxy. Humans watched from Earth and the colonies. The Council's subject species watched from hundreds of worlds. Everyone understood that something fundamental had changed. For the first time in 3,000 years, a species had joined the Galactic Council as an equal partner, not as a subordinate. Admiral Day was chosen as Earth's first representative to the Council. He stood before the assembled delegates, 847 species watching him. Some looked curious, some looked afraid, some looked hopeful. Members of the Galactic Council. He began. I stand before you not as a conquered subject, not as a primitive seeking guidance, but as an equal. Humanity has learned many things in our long history. We've learned that peace is valuable, that cooperation is stronger than conflict. But we've also learned one lesson that we will never forget. Freedom is not given. It is earned. And it must be defended. He paused, looking around the vast chamber. Humanity has one rule that we live by. We bow to no one. But we will stand beside anyone who treats us with respect. We will share our knowledge with those who share theirs. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves. We will work for peace, but never at the price of our dignity or our freedom. Some species applauded. Others sat in silence. The elders watched carefully, calculating what this new member would mean for their carefully ordered civilization. After the speech, Krendy approached Day privately. You have changed the Council forever, Admiral. I hope you understand what that means. I do, Day said. Change is never easy, but it's necessary. Some species will see you as heroes, others will see you as threats. How will you handle that? Day smiled. The same way we handled your fleet. With courage, creativity, and the absolute refusal to give up. Back on Earth, Captain Jin Park stood on the bridge of the repaired Defiance. The ship had been damaged in the battle, but Mina's engineering teams had rebuilt it better than before. Now it was ready for a new mission. Captain, all systems are ready, Commander Wu Han reported. Course is set for the Andromeda sector. We're ready to begin humanity's first deep space exploration mission, beyond Council space. Jin looked at the view screen. Stars stretched out before them. Billions of them. Most unexplored. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries. And now, humanity was free to discover them. Take us out, Commander. Let's see what's out there. The Defiance left Earth's orbit, carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire species. Behind it, in Geneva, President Yuna Choi watched the ship depart on her monitor. She thought about everything that had happened. The ultimatum. The battle. The negotiations. Her assistant entered the office. Madam President, we're receiving reports from the Torvan homeworld. They're demanding the same treaty terms we got. They want full membership in the Council, not subject status. Yuna smiled. And so it begins. Ma'am? The galaxy has learned what Earth knew all along. Peace is only possible between equals, and equality is not given. It must be earned, fought for, and defended. She stood up and looked out at the stars. We didn't just save ourselves. We showed everyone else that freedom is possible. That's going to change everything. Across the galaxy, on 40 different worlds, species that had been subjects for centuries began to demand their rights. The Council, already weakened by its defeat at Earth, had no choice but to listen. The old order was crumbling, and humanity, the species that refused to kneel, stood at the center of it all. The galaxy would never be the same.